neither hearken unto thy voice, that thou shalt take of the waters of the river and put it on dry land, and the water which thou takest out of the river shall become blood upon the dry ground. And Moses said unto the Lord, my Lord, I am not eloquent, neither heretofore nor since thou hast spoken unto thy servant, because I am slow of speech and slow of tongue. The Lord said unto him, who hath made man's mouth? Or who maketh the dumb or deaf or the seeing or the blind? Have not I the Lord? Oh, isn't that good all by itself? God knows exactly what he's doing. I want to use a one-word subject. It is what I believe that God wants to do in your life. It is the reason that I'm here. It is the reason that you have been through tests and trials. It is the reason that many of you have been hidden for such a time as this. I believe that this is your destiny year. This is a moment in your life that God is about to activate what has been hidden heretofore. He is about to act. Somebody say activate. Somebody say activate. God is about to activate those things that have been hidden in your life. One more time, shout it, activate. Spirit of the living God, fall fresh while I preach the word. Without you, I can do nothing. I am impotent without you, incompetent. I have no ability. I am slow of speech and of wit and mind, and nothing without you. Speak in this place, great God, that you are, until everything that is hidden is revealed and everything that is bound is loosed and everybody that is captive is set free, until we sing your praises with fresh lips, because we know what you have done in our lives. Have your way, great God that you are. In the mighty name of Jesus we pray. Somebody who loves him shout amen. You may be seated in the presence of the Lord. You don't have to get up no more till you get ready to leave. The year was 1965. I was a little boy sitting in the back of the car and my mother was driving. She had just come from speaking at her sorority. She was a Delta. She was a public speaker, very eloquent of speech and very intelligent and quite articulate. And we were riding back home when I said to her, right now, they come to hear you speak and they call me Miss Jake's son. But before it's over, they will call me to speak and they will call you Tom Jake's mother. And right after this prophetic utterance, I went right back to being a little devil again, that was my job and my calling. But for that one moment, I caught a glimpse. I caught a glimpse of my destiny. I am convinced that life is not about hours or days or weeks or months or years. You might be 80 years old, but you don't remember 80 years, weeks, months. All life is a collection of moments. Moments, memories, moments. We don't really absorb time. We absorb moments. And in the course of those moments, we have what we call glimpses, destiny glimpses, where you can just see yourself someplace that you've never been. You can just sense that something is about to happen in your life, or that destiny is calling you somewhere, and you catch glimpses. Church folks call it vision. Without a vision, the people perish. And then you have a vision, you catch a glimpse. You might be sick and you catch a glimpse of being healed. You catch a glimpse of being prosperous even though you're impoverished at the moment. You catch a glimpse of being loved even though you're lonely at the moment. You catch glimpses. These are lifelines that God sends us to give us the fortitude and the latitude and the tenacity to survive where we are. Just glimpses. Little lines of hope, little rays of light that promise us that where we are is not where we're going, that someday God is going to do something amazing in your life. He feeds you with glimpses. Now we see through a glass darkly, just quick glimpses, so that you can hold on, so that you can endure the temporary circumstances that are prevailing in your life, to let you know that where you are is not the end of the story, that sooner or later God is going to move you into your destiny and into your purpose, and it gives you the tenacity to withstand the trials and the adversities of life. We survive off of glimpses, moments and seconds where we see things that are not there. Your son is unsaved, your daughter is unsaved, maybe they're in prison, or maybe they're alcoholic, but you catch glimpses of them with their hands raised and praising God, and they are crazy glimpses. They don't even fit your circumstance, but they remind you that God has not forgotten you, that he has a plan, that he has a purpose for your life. Has anybody ever caught a glimpse of themselves doing something utterly amazing, somewhere different from where you are? Just a glimpse, no details. You know, God is not big on details. He doesn't tell you how or when or who or through what method, but he just tells you, I'm going to heal you. I'm going to bring you out. Just little glimpses. I remember one time when my wife and I first got married and I lost my job. In fact, they shut down the plant and the bottom had fallen out the economy, and I lost my position, and I was so upset. And I walked across the parking lot with my layoffs notice in my hand and tears running down my face, wondering how in the world I was going to feed my family. And it went on for about a couple of years, and I lost my lights and lost my car. They took my car. They repossessed everything. I was down to nothing, and I had to catch the bus to go up to beg the power company not to cut off the power. And when I went in to beg them not to cut off the power because I didn't have any money, and I had 2 kids and a wife and no way of feeding them, and the woman laughed in my face, and I walked down the street with tears running down my face, and I was so frustrated that I couldn't hold it back anymore, and I was literally boo-hoo, I mean ugly crying in front of everybody. You know, a little cute cry isn't too bad, but when it gets down to an ugly cry, it's a bad thing. And I was walking down the street in front of everybody with tears running down my face because it looked like it was the end, and it looked like I was going to die. And I could, in my mind, I thought, oh God, any day now we're going to be homeless, and we're going to be pushing go-karts with red socks on and blue ties, walking down the street with tennis shoes and an overcoat. In the summertime, it's going to be terrible. And all he said was, I will not suffer thy foot to be moved. And I caught a glimpse that what I was going through was a temporary circumstance, that this too would pass, that I was made for better than this, that somehow God was going to raise me up and deliver me, that he was not through with me, but these fiery trials that had come upon me were just temporary circumstances to try my faith, because the enemy was trying to convince me that what I was going through was a death sentence and a curse on my life. But God kept throwing me a lifeline saying, if you hold out, deliverance is going to come. It takes you a long time to come into a full understanding of your purpose and your destiny and where you're supposed to be. I will never forget when I took my son got ready to go to college, and the last thing I said to him before I left him is, don't you forget who you are. Because you can easily forget who you are, surrounded by other people and what they say and what they think. I wanted to remind him, I grounded you before you left. You know who you are. There's no doubt about who you are. You didn't come to this school to find out who you are. You didn't come to the other classmates and students or the people in your building to find out who you are. You don't have to climb in the back seat of a car to find out who you are, and you don't have to drive drugs up your arm to find out who you are. I told you who you are. Even when you don't look like it, don't forget. It's a benefit of having a father. I named you, I told you, I prophesied over you. You know who you are. Anytime God tells us something about ourselves, it is because life will often contradict what God tells us. God doesn't need to tell you you're healed if you feel healed. God doesn't need to tell you you're blessed if you feel blessed. The word of the Lord comes to you to give you glimpses, to remind you that in spite of the evidence, in spite of the circumstances, in spite of the situation, don't you forget who you are. You're healed. I don't care what the lump says. I don't care what the tissue says. I don't care what the doctor says. I don't care what the accountant says, the bookkeeper, the butcher, the baker, the candlestick maker. I'm telling you now, you're healed. The problem with Moses is Moses had forgotten who he was. He had forgotten the strange circumstances surrounding his birth. Everybody knew who he was but him. He was born on the hit list of hell because even the demons knew who Moses was. Hell was searching for him when he was still in the crib, trying to terminate him, trying to kill him. All the hell's angels knew that Moses was coming, and a death decree had gone out to destroy him. If it were not for the wisdom of his mother hiding him, he would have been destroyed. She had to hide him. She had to be stealthy. She had to put him in the bulrushes. She had to build an ark around him and put him in the Nile. And she had to do extreme things because of who he was. But 40 years had made him forget who he was. The prophecy over his life, being nursed at the breast of a Hebrew mother, raised in an Egyptian palace, eloquent and articulate, educated as it were, well-spoken as it relates to languages. He could adapt to multicultural understandings of himself because he was by blood a Hebrew, but by experience an Egyptian. God had groomed him for greatness in obscurity, but trouble had made him forget who he was. Trials and tribulations had made him forget who he was because he did not feel like a king or a prince or a liberator. In fact, he felt like a criminal. He was an outlaw on the run from a wicked Pharaoh who was trying to kill him because they said Moses was a murderer, and in fact he was. He was a murderer. It's one thing when they talk about you and what they said isn't true. It is so easy to defend yourself when there is absolutely no truth in what they said, but when there is an element of truth in what they said, perhaps they are right. And Moses had fallen into the abyss of thinking perhaps they are right, and he had ran from Egypt, the place where his destiny was to be unfolded, and he had hidden in the Midianite camps with Jethro on the backside of the desert and said, I'm through with it. I'm not going to worry about it. I'm just going to take care of sheep. He had forgotten who he was. 40 years on the backside of the desert, living a life of mediocrity, trying to fit in with them and they and us and we-ins, never really recognizing that you were meant to be exceptional and you were never meant to fit in. You were never meant to be one of them. They were never meant to like you. They were never supposed to accept you. There was a reason they rejected you. God allows rejection to be a ministry so that you don't fit into mediocrity and you're crying over something that God has rejected because he has a better plan for your life. I don't know who I'm talking to, but I feel like I'm talking to somebody already who tried to fit in over here and tried to fit in over there and tried to fit in everywhere. And you said, Lord, I don't fit anywhere. Moses didn't fit anywhere. He couldn't rest in his mama's tent and he couldn't stay in the palace, and now he's on the backside of the desert trying to fit in with the Midianites. And the truth of the matter is, he wasn't one of them either. He wasn't a Midianite, not really, and he wasn't an Egyptian, not really, and he couldn't fit in with the Hebrews because he had never lived like a slave. Even though he was related to them by blood, he was disconnected to them by experience. God always uses misfit people to do extraordinary things. I wish I had some misfits in the room. I wish I had some oddballs in the room. Some people that people just didn't like. No matter what you do, they don't like you. You change your hair, you change your clothes, you change your walk, you change your talk, and no matter what you do, you never fit in. Stop trying to fit in. God never designed you to fit in. He designed you to stand out. He meant for you to be different. He set you apart. God has a plan for your life. I said God has a plan for your life. I said God has a plan for your life. I love you right back. I love you right back. I'm the chairman of the Misfit Club. Yeah, but there's advantages in being a misfit. The Bible said the stones that the builders rejected has become the chief cornerstone. I want you to start being happy that they rejected you. Be glad that you don't fit in. Be glad that they never call you back. Be glad that they talked about you, mistreated you. Be glad that even your own family doesn't like you. Be glad about it. Rejoice in it. God has a plan for your life. Don't you forget who you are. The truth of the matter is, it does not yet appear what we shall be. It does not yet appear what we shall be. In other words, the translation, that means in the Greek, baby, you ain't seen nothing yet. You ain't seen nothing yet. The Bible said, judge nothing before it's time, but judge the righteous judgment. Anybody who will see Moses in the moment of this text, he doesn't look like a king or a conqueror, a priest or a pastor. He doesn't look like a leader or a thinker. He's dirty, and he smells, and he's sweaty, and he's covered with sheep hair, and he's got sheep dung in between his toes, and he's in the desert, and it's hot, and it's dry, and he's on the backside of the desert. And he smells bad, and he looks bad, and his hair is grown out, and he's woolly, and he's unkempt, and he doesn't look like somebody significant or important. He doesn't look like anybody. He doesn't look like nothing. He doesn't look like anybody that anybody would want to kill or destroy or bless or do anything with. He's just blended in to the paperwork of his adversity. He has just melted into the mesh of his dilemma. He has melted into mediocrity, and he is indistinguishable from his environment until he hears a voice. And the voice says, take off your shoes. In other words, I'm getting ready to use you like you have never been used before. You're getting ready to find out why your name is Moses. You see, the name Moses means to be drawn out. That means what I put in you has to be drawn out. That means I used all of your circumstances to draw out of you what I put in you. You're getting ready to find out why you had to go through what you had to go through, why you had to go this way and not that way, why doors were slammed in your face and why you were shut down. I'm getting ready to Moses. In fact, it wasn't just Moses, it was Moses. Whenever you see God use the same name twice, like Abraham, Moses, Joshua, verily, it's a sign of a covenant. It means that whatever God has spoken in heaven, it shall be done on earth. Moses, Abraham, verily, Moses, take off your shoes, boy. I'm getting ready to take you into another dimension. I'm getting ready to take you in a place that everything you've been through has only been a shadow of things to come. It's only a shadow. It's a shadow. I was looking on the stage, I saw my shadow. And every time I move my hand, my shadow moves. You can't see the color of my shirt in my shadow because shadows don't show details, just movement, just a shadow. It's a shadow. It's a shadow. Wherever there's a shadow, there's a light. You can't have a shadow without a light. This is a shadow. Moses is light. You see, Moses was taking care of the sheep. He was leading sheep.